Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. In this tutorial we will discuss history and concepts of PLCs. History of PLC. The early PLC was huge in size and it has very little functions and characteristics. Introduction to PLCs. Programmable Logic Controller (PLC) is an industrial computer control system that continuously monitors the state of input devices and makes decisions based upon a custom program to control the state of output devices. A PLC has a microcontroller or a microprocessor. As we have discussed microcontroller and microprocessor earlier, these two are used for the programming or processing the inputs and outputs. Based on control inside with special interface circuits to operate in a harsh environment of an industry. To work with a microprocessor or a microcontroller, one has to be familiar with the programming language of a particular device. Each microprocessor and microcontroller has a programming language and one has to be familiar with that language in order to operate that one. Normally, electronic engineers can work with the microprocessor and microcontrollers. In contrast to program a PLC, only a logical approach is required to work with ladder logic. An industrial computer that can be programmed with ladder logic, functional block diagram (FBD), or standard text language (STL) language is to be categorized as PLC. These are the earlier programming languages of PLCs that we have already discussed in our previous videos. Ladder language, functional block diagram and standard text languages. These are its layouts. One can see that this is the PLC earlier languages which are now obsolete and used very little. This is the PLC and this is the ladder language, and these languages are now surpassed by the ladder language, and ladder language is the most widely usable programmable logic controllers language which is used across the world nowadays. Historical background. The Hydrometric Division of General Motors Corporation specified the design criteria for the first programming controller in 1968. General Motors developed the first PLC. Their primary goal was to eliminate the high cost associated with the inflexible relay control systems. Relay control systems were very complex and very costly, and they required to eliminate its cost by developing a programmable controller. Preconditions for PLC given by General Motors. General Motors defined some preconditions in order to develop a controller in the modular form. The first one is the controller had to be designed in modular form so that sub-assemblies could be removed easily for replacement or repair. First one is this one. The second one, the control system needed the capability to pass data collection to a central system so that the data can be passed to a central processing unit (CPU). The system had to be reusable. Once programmed, and if we remove the previous program, the next program can be installed in it very easily. The method used to program the controller had to be simple so that it could be easily understood by plant operators. The programming method, the operating method should be simple and easy for the operators. Programmable Logic Controller (PLC's) history. First of all, we will discuss its history in detail, then will we move further. In 1968, the earliest fully programmable logic controller (PLC) was developed by a consulting engineering firm named as Bedford Associates. Bedford Associates developed a logical controller in 1968, which was since changed its name to Modicon. Then its name was changed to Modicon. The first PLC was designed as a dedicated computer control system that was built specially for the General Motors Hydrometric Division. That was designed and manufactured for the General Motors Hydrometric Division. The first model was the 084 and went through a series of modifications in early 1970s, which resulted in 184 model and 384 modules. During this period, Modicon also produced several other models like 284, 1084, which were subsequently followed by 484. The 484 provided for the control of 256 inputs and 256 outputs from one processor. 484 model can control the 256 inputs and outputs with the help of one processor. Modicon was purchased by Gold Incorporated in 1977. In 1978, the Modbus data network was designed to enable other Modicon PLCs to transfer data to each other. In 1980s, Modicon introduced the 84 micro, a small, compact, low-cost, powerful PLC system. The system was comprised of 64 IOs, counters, timers, sequencers, and mathematical functions. First PLC 1969. The modular digital controller Modicon. The Modicon 084 brought the world's first PLC into commercial production. This was the first PLC, which we can see that very large in size, and its characteristics and its function were very few. But with the passage of time, its modification brought a change in its functions, in its characteristics, and also reduced its size. And we have a PLC nowadays, very small, very compact, and very small in size, and has a very large number of functions and characteristics. Programming consoles of PLC, early PLCs. These were the programming consoles, like a keyboard. These keyboards were used to program a PLC. These were the early consoles. This is like just a computer, and from the keyboard you can program a PLC based upon this console. IBM personal computer. In the beginning, there was the IBM personal computer, although IBM's launch of the personal computer IBM 5150 in 1981 set the industry standard for personal computing. IBM introduced its first computer in 1981, and which was used for personal computing in industry. IBM had introduced a variety of small computers for individual users several years before that. IBM also introduced a variety of small computers, but this was a special model for computing in industry, and this was like this. And based upon these are the microcontrollers and microprocessors used in the CPU of a computer for computing. Ladder logic programming. The automotive industry was a major early adopter of programmable logic controller PLC. They wanted a programming method that could be easily understood by their existing control engineers and technicians. The result of this desire was programming language called relay ladder logic or ladder logic. This is the ladder logic programming, which is the most modified form of the PLCs, and this can be used to program a PLC in the sequence. This is the first sequence, second sequence, third sequence, and it is in the steps like ladder, and it controls the program in steps. And this is its graphical form of a program, inputs and outputs of a PLC. So you may have learned something new from this video. So stay tuned with me, and this course will continue, and you will be able to learn Siemens PLCs in a thorough way, in a detailed study, so you will be able to program a PLC very easily and understand its function very easily. Thank you so much for watching this video.